Welcome back to April Unmuted. I'm really glad you're here today because we're about to get into some truth tea, okay? The kind of stuff we don't always say out loud, but we feel it every single day. Let me start here. You ever feel like you've done everything right, went to work, paid your bills, showed up for people, maybe even chased some goals, but at the end of the night, you lay down in bed and you're like, why do I still feel stuck? Yeah, that's what we're unpacking today. Because here's what I've learned. Sometimes the problem isn't that you're lazy or unmotivated or not enough. Sometimes the problem is that you're following rules that don't even belong to you. Now, I want you to think about this while you're listening. What are the rules you've been living by? Rules about success, rules about your body, rules about your faith. We're going there today, okay? And let me keep it real and bring this to my own life because I don't ever want to talk theory with y'all. I want to talk real, okay? So at work, I carried this unspoken rule that if my team wasn't at the top, then I wasn't a good manager. Like my worth depended on performance, charts, and numbers. Imagine waking up every day with that weight on your shoulders, knowing that no matter how hard you pushed, it would never feel like enough. And here's the kicker. I was doing the work. I was showing up, giving my best, but still going home drained, questioning myself, feeling like I had to consistently prove my value. Have you ever felt that way? Like the finish line just keeps moving, like the bar keeps getting higher no matter how hard you try? That's what living under the wrong rules will do. It will have you chasing validation you may never get to. And then there's my weight loss journey. One of the hardest rules I had to break was this idea that surgery was the easy way out. People love to talk. They'll have something to say whether you gain weight, lose weight, or stay the same. And for a long time, I let that rule get in my head. I worried that people would look at me sideways like I didn't earn it, like I cheated, right? But let me tell you something. Surgery wasn't a shortcut. It was a tool, okay? I still had to show up every single day. I had to change my habits. I had to deal with the emotions behind why I was overeating. The real transformation wasn't the number on the scale. It was me deciding to silence that old rule. So if you've ever been afraid of what people will say about your journey, whether it's weight loss, career, business, or anything else, let me be the one to tell you their rule doesn't define you. And now let's talk about faith for a second, okay? Like, I gotta breathe on this one. I grew up in church almost every week. Friday nights, Saturdays, midweek rehearsals, like that was my life. And the rule I picked up was this: if you weren't in the building, you weren't close enough to God. And I'm gonna let that one breathe because I know some of y'all know what I'm talking about. That rule had me performing instead of connecting. It made me feel like my relationship with God was measured by rituals instead of a relationship. But this year, after being baptized, I had to release that. I had to realize God doesn't need me to follow rules to prove I love Him. He wants my heart. He wants my honesty. He wants my presence. And that shift changed everything. It freed me from living to please people and pushed me to live in alignment with what's real. So, when I talk about letting go of old rules, this isn't just a topic. This is my story. This is the work I've had to do, and I know I'm not the only one. So, let me ask you, what rules were you handed about success? What rules were you handed about your body? What rules were you handed about faith, relationships, or even your worth? And here's the real question. Are those rules helping you live, or are they keeping you surviving? Because transformation doesn't always start with adding something new. Sometimes it starts with dropping the rules that were never meant for you in the first place. And that's exactly what we're about to get into. Okay, now let's flip the lens a little bit because this part isn't about me, but it's definitely about you. You've been carrying rules too. Maybe you don't even call them rules, but you feel them. So think about family, right? Did you grow up believing your worth was tied to your grades or that keeping the peace was more important than speaking your truth? Those kinds of rules follow us into adulthood. And before we know it, we're still living by them. Let's take a look at womanhood, especially as Black women. The unspoken rule is be strong, work twice as hard, and never let them see you sweat. And so you walk around saying, I'm good, I'm good, I'm unbothered over here. I know we've all said, I'm so unbothered. When really, you're bothered. You're bothered, you're tired, and you're carrying way too much. And now let's look at relationships. How many of us are taught that love equals sacrifice? That to be chosen, you've got to compromise yourself. That's not love. That's a rule that keeps you shrinking. And even money. Maybe you've heard money doesn't grow on trees. I know we've all heard that. Money is hard to come by. And now you hustle nonstop because deep down you believe ease isn't possible. You believe if it's not struggle, it's not real. See, these rules, they run deeper than we even realize. They shape the way you move, the choices you make, the way you see yourself. And here's the part we don't talk about enough. Rules like these don't feel like rules. They feel like truth. They feel like gospel. And that's why they're so hard to spot. So I want you to pause right here and I want you to ask yourself a few things, right? What rules do I carry about success? What rules do I carry about strength? What rules do I carry about love? And what rules do I carry about money? Because naming them is the first step, not fixing them. Now, fixing them, that takes deeper work, but naming them, once you can see the rules for what they are, you get to decide, do I keep them or do I let them go? Here's the thing about rules. They might have served you once, but that doesn't mean they serve you now. Family rules, maybe they kept you out of trouble as a kid. But as an adult, keeping the peace at all costs means you silence yourself. You don't set boundaries. You don't ask for what you need. And that rule doesn't fit you anymore. When it comes to womanhood rules, being strong might have kept generations before us alive. And I do not downplay that. But now it's leaving us burnt out, resentful, and disconnected. You weren't created to just survive. You were created to live. That old rule doesn't fit where we're going, okay? And then let's look at relationship rules. Sure, compromise is a part of love, but shrinking yourself to stay in a situation, that is not love. That's bondage. And the truth is, that rule doesn't fit the version of you that's learning to honor your worth. And those money rules, yes, hard work matters, but the idea that money can only come from struggle, that mindset blocks blessings before they even reach you. That rule keeps you stuck in grind mode when you're called to so much more. Here's the truth. You've outgrown the rules. And you know it because every time you try to fit back into them, something inside you feels restless. You feel the tension between who you've been told to be and who you actually are. And that's why you feel tired when you're doing all the right things, right? That's why no amount of grinding, proving, or people pleasing ever feels enough because those rules were written for survival and not transformation. And I want you to hear me on this. You're not wrong for outgrowing them. You're not rebellious. You're not selfish. You're not lazy. You're just shifting into alignment. So ask yourself this. Where am I still trying to squeeze into a rule that doesn't fit me anymore? What would change in my life if I finally set that rule down? Because sometimes the heaviest weight you're carrying isn't even yours. It's an outdated rule that was never meant for the version of you that you're walking and ushering into. All right, let's bring this all together because we've talked about the rules you've inherited, the ones that shape how you move, how you love, how you see yourself. And we've talked about how those rules don't always fit who you are right now. So here's the reflection that I want you to sit with this week because, I'm always going to give you a little work. I'm going to give you some work. This is a journey, right, guys? Y'all here with me, right? So what's one rule I'm still following that no longer fits the woman I'm becoming, okay? Don't overthink it. I do not want y'all listing 10 million things. I need you to just choose one because awareness really starts small. And sometimes all it takes is naming that one rule to start seeing how it's been running your life. And here's the thing, you don't have to rewrite every rule today, but you do need to know which ones no longer belong to you. That's where your transformation is going to really begin. And if any of this hit home for you and you're ready to actually do the work of letting those rules go and stepping into something new, just know I've got something coming up. For those of you who have been following me on social media, I know you've heard of my Done Shrinking guide, and I'm redeveloping Done Shrinking. I'm redeveloping it into a brand new experience. I'm giving you 10 steps, 10 shifts to help you break free from survival mode and step into the version of you that's been waiting, okay? So keep your eyes open because it is definitely on the way. It's in the works. We're working on it. We're working on it. And as always, guys, I want you to be authentic in what you do. And why do we want to do that? Because authenticity is the new bag.